Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Rules of Nerdquisition. After a 2 week hiatus, it's entirely my fault, but I am Gretchen, as always, joined by my number one, Commander Gilbert, the angriest of first officers in the entire Starfleet. How the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. How's everybody doing today? And Gretchen, you're looking lovely as ever.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So,
Um,
always happy to be here. Always happy to talk about Star Trek.
of course.
So, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Episode 14, Balance of Terror. This is a good one. This is a good one. I like this one. Not
Oh,
not a
yeah.
whole lot of moral ambiguity. I mean, certainly overtones of war is bad. First appearance of the Romulans in the Star Trek canonical universe, and
Correct.
starring Mark Leonard, Star Trek alum, who goes on later to play Spock's father, Sarek. Passed away in 1996. We discussed that a little bit in the pre-show, but I always got to give my shout outs to those alumni that are no longer with us. And he is the
So, we
one.
got to
And,
remember them.
and this one's important because, again, he plays a very important role going forward, not just through the series, but well into the movies as well. So, and even Next Generation, he makes an
Oh, yeah.
appearance as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because he still continues his recurring role as Sarek.
Absolutely.
Even coming through as always a Vulcan dignitary. If it
Right.
if they can't
Right.
get Spock, they got Sarek.
I mean, we get to see kind of follow his progression as Spock's father through a good portion of his life. I mean, I'm sure he had 100 years or more before, but
Right. But we
we
kind of
see
see, yeah,
two
you see
two
more
different
of,
wives,
yeah. And so I guess we kind of see a growth ish, so to speak, over the years with Spock and his dad, and sort of they kind of reconciling, so to speak, their issues,
but in this
which
episode, he is the enemy and he must be destroyed.
absolutely. And this was, like, again, as you said, this we get our first glimpse of the Romulans.
Right.
And so
Because
pretty much it's one of those, oh, what's the name of the book? Art of War books. We know it's a strategy, just kind of see, oh, okay, we have a new enemy here, what are they doing? What are they planning on doing? Oh, there's other enemy here. And you have two captains that are, with Kirk and oh, what's the captain name in this one? What he plays?
do they give him a name? I'm not sure that they do.
I can't remember. I think it was just either captain or commander,
I
but
think it's just the Romulan commander because they don't really have isn't like sub commander is or
like
commander
sub commander and
is
commander,
their
and
captain
they just,
version.
yeah, I guess they just address each other by their rank. So, which is cool.
Th-
That's
They
efficient for
do,
them, I guess.
yeah, they do name at least one of the Romulans in the show, but it's one of his Centurions, the Commander Centurions. It's not even his name, so I don't think we ever get anything other than just it's the Romulan
Yeah.
Commander. But we actually start off this episode on a happy note. We got a little space wedding to go to, you know?
So
Um,
yes, we got a happy couple, young couple, fresh out, look like fresh out the academy,
right,
you
right.
know, and then
An-
two
Angela
young people in love.
Martine, is it Angela Martine and Robert Tomlinson are the crew members getting married in the Enterprise Chapel, which I think is that the only time we've ever seen like an official chapel on a Federation
Um,
starship?
I think so. I mean,
I don't know that I've ever seen
I
another
don't,
one.
I got no, because I mean, well, if you have a and later in the races, I mean, you have something like a holodeck room. You don't really need a whole other dedicated space like that. You just say, computer, send me a nice wedding venue, out in the middle of nowhere,
Right? Well,
and you can just make it all up.
according to Memory Alpha, Constitution class starships were equipped with a chapel on board, but it doesn't look like, based on what I'm looking at, that was ever addressed again. I mean, we may have seen them in holodecks and
Right.
holographic representations later, but to actually have a physical room that you could go to, which I
No,
could
that's I
see
mean,
why you wouldn't have one. I mean, not only are you a multiracial starship with a starship for your crew is multiracial, which have
correct.
cultural, which would have multiple different
Right.
religious beliefs, but you have aliens on board as well.
Right. So I mean they may not all I mean they're not all space Christian. Let's put it like that. So I mean they may, part of their religious background could be, in nature, like in a Wiccan belief. It could be rooted in being in nature and being outdoors and being outside and connecting, with nature like that, with the trees and the soil and the air and all that stuff.
We can't
And
forget
that's
about
cool.
this. We can't forget about the space Muslims, the space Buddhists, the space witches. I
Exactly.
mean,
You just can't limit it all just to space Christians because there's just too much out there.
we'll cover that when we get to Star Trek Five.
Right,
Anyway,
exactly. So we open it up with a wedding,
and
and
no good deed goes unpunished.
and just before the I do's happen, shenanigans takes place from the Romulans.
Shenanigans, shenanigans. Yep, the klaxon goes off. Red alert is sounded. Captain Kirk, report to the bridge. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Starfleet
Yep.
Command, we have a problem. Somebody, we have a problem.
So we red alert, roll them up. And so yeah, there's an issue. Kirk
Yeah, Earth,
goes up to
Earth,
the bridge, and then we find out it was one of the space stations
Earth
out on
Outpost
the
4.
Earth Outpost 4 on the edge of the neutral zone. And then
Edge of the neutral zone.
we find out, what exactly the neutral zone is,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
kind of
think
how it came to be. And we heard, in uh Next Gen and in Deep Space Nine, and you know later iterations of spinoffs of Star Trek referred to the neutral zone. And without getting, we kind of are supposed to kind of understand the neutral zone is that whatever happens out there happens out there. We don't have the protection out there like we do, in Federation space. Neutral zone. That's wild territory.
right, and that's almost one of those Star Trek, I don't know, staples that really this was the first discussion about it on the show
Right.
itself. This is where we're learning about it, learning that, after a war with the Romulans 100 years ago, where neither species knows what either one looks like, a treaty was established, thus creating the neutral zone and separate
Right.
as a buffer between the Romulan Star Empire and the United
And
Federation of Planets.
right.
And
Correct.
we're
And
not
that's
to
say
violate that.
you cross over here, then that's you're the neutral zone is considered an act of war. As long as you stay on your side, we're cool. I'll stay on my side. We're cool. We meet in the middle here. Mm, things could happen. Things
Things can
could
happen.
happen.
And Kirk even finds out after talking to Starfleet Command, they're like, one, you're not to violate per the treaty, the neutral zone. But
Right.
also, yeah, you and your crew, you're expendable.
And so, yeah, I mean, you don't violate the neutral zone, but if you happen to go in there, sorry, you're on your own. And so, yeah,
I wonder how
the
large the
space,
neutral zone was. Do we know? Do you know how large it was?
they had a map on there and they had it scaled up to, and I forget offhand. I'd have to watch it again, but they had it scaled. I want to say it was as far, let's just say in mileage goes, like in miles, I
Or
want to say it was like 100,000 miles.
well, I mean, I would say it's probably even measured in light years because there's
Like,
multiple star systems
yeah,
within the neutral zone, and
yeah.
your
So,
average,
well, no, that 100,000. Well, let's just say 100,000 light years
right, because I mean,
between the two. Yeah,
the closest star to Earth is four light years away. So
right.
yeah, so light years is probably what they were talking about, would be my guess. So, but anyway, yeah, they're
So
some
then,
rogue Romulan commander's like, I don't care about the neutral zone. I'm just gonna blow some shit up. I'm just gonna get out there.
he's like, you know what? Screw that. Screw that. So look at it. That place is way too close, and they got. Nah, I don't like that. I don't like that. And so he went out. That commander handled it, and just for and I think I kind of you almost get the sense of this may have been like a test for the Romulans to kind of test out their cloaking features on one of the spacecraft
Hmm.
because we heard that they can cloak, but it was sometimes they could, but sometimes they could, and some vessels could. But it seemed like to me that this was sort of like a test to see how well the cloaking worked and if they could uh I guess somehow kind of find with the power, get more power source to it, to be able to fire weapons while cloaked, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and you're talking, this again, this is a century after after the war was ended by treaty. So
Mm-hmm.
even if they had that technology before, they want to test out the upgrades. Where
Right.
technology moves fast. 100 years is a long time in terms of technology. I mean, we see advancements in just 10 or 12 years. Like they say
Yeah, exactly.
when you go buy a laptop, by the time you get it home, it's outdated.
Yeah, that's basically pretty much, yeah. Because and I remember there was a in the first season of Enterprise, before they actually started using the transporter, whenever they would start Enterprise would orbit the planet, they would take a shuttle down.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I remember it was one scene where Archer and his second, where they were in some kind of trouble. They were running and they had to use the transporter, and it was brand new, and they hadn't quite worked out the kinks to it yet. And so they were kind of doing like a whole Bon Jovi thing and living on a prayer. And it's just like, let's transport her. And it worked. So miraculously, it's like that. And so, doing tests like that and situations like that. And then, we get the transporter next gen and, how it is in the original series. We get the perfected transporter.
Right, exactly. Which
Yeah.
still, for many, many years, even a century or more, they've been way too many problems with the transporter.
Yeah. It's,
Way
it's
too many.
always some, also, there's always some problems with it, you know?
Always something
And
going wrong.
Barkley found out a few problems with it. We all know Bones has some issues with transporters.
He has a lot of issues, not just with the transporter, but
He just has a lot.
he's got a lot. Enough for a lifetime subscription, but don't we all?
Exactly. Oh,
And
and so as we
now I'm like off topic here. Like, okay, I was trying to figure out who the first officer of the Enterprise NX-01 was. Trip was the second officer, but who was the first officer? Was
was it
that this?
T'Pol?
I don't
No,
think
no, it
so.
wasn't T'Pol.
The secure the
She was like a Vulcan liaison, just
right.
more like a babysitter to
I
make sure that
think
they didn't get into trouble.
I think it was God, I can't remember his name now. The British guy, the security officer, the tactical officer.
Oh, yes, yes. I remember his, I cannot.
I can't think of his name. It's been a
I,
while since I've watched Star Trek Enterprise. Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah,
yeah.
back to back to Balance of Terror. We
Oh
have
yeah.
another
So
we have another Enterprise bridge officer who has to have a meltdown.
of course. And I had it in my notes is it seems like all of these the bridge officers and helmsmen that sit next to Sulu always seem to be a little bit xenophobic and homophobic and a
Misogynistic
little
and
bit little bit of misogynistic.
because yeah, he automatically assumes this being Lieutenant Styles, automatically assumes it's Romulan. Kirk points out that after a century, we don't know what Romulan ships look like. We can't say for sure, but Styles shares his knowledge. And he's like, well, I have family members that died in that war. And Kirk is like, that
Like
was their
that
war.
that was them,
It's not
not
your
you.
war.
That was them.
Right.
And he's still like, nah, man, no, I know it. And it's almost at that point, it's like, yeah, you're missing your tinfoil hat, man. You need your tinfoil hat.
Yeah. And sorry,
And so
the Enterprise, the original Enterprise doesn't have replicators. So we can't just,
just can't just like, hey,
computer, tinfoil hat.
let me get a tinfoil hat. And so then, as we find out more about this whole vessel that has destroyed Earth Earth Station Alpha or Earth
Outpost 4.
Station Outpost 4. Earth
Right.
Outpost Earth Outpost 4.
And then even later, as they're going on
Yeah.
after Styles breakdown, 2 and 3 are also destroyed. So
Yeah. And you can see that's just it's almost like like I said, the Romulans are doing some
busy.
experimenting.
They're
Doing some
busy.
experimenting. Do a little bit of a experimenting, you know. And so, and I forget, after going playing this whole cat and mouse with Enterprise and the Romulan ship and finally getting close enough to where they can get a visual. And then you see, dun dun dun, Romulans look exactly like Spock.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
every
After they find that one survivor on Outpost 4, Commander Hansen, and he goes through his whole spiel about this giant, powerful blast, and then they see the ship firing before
yeah,
it disappears.
and then
But
I guess
Spock,
the
able to track it through the cloak, can get the
can get a visual and somehow can hack into their security cameras and take a look right in the face. I
right.
don't, I
To
don't know
which
how other way to explain it.
everyone's either rubbernecking or giving Spock the side eye at that point. Like,
Said no, there's only one, and that is that helmsman. Look right, and everybody's looking right at the screen at the Romulan commander, except for one helmsman. They said no, it's the Romulans. He looked right at Spock. Nobody else looking at Spock, just him.
right. Nobody else.
And I'm like, really, man? Did this what we doing? Did this is what we doing? So yeah, just a little bit
Yeah.
tiny bit I guess you would say racist
Oh
because
yeah.
in
Kirk
this
has to call
instance
him
it would be
out.
a different race because it's Spock and he's a human, but a slightly bit. And so yeah, Kirk has to kind of set his foot down and say, "Yo, you leave that in your quarters, man. Don't bring that in my bridge."
Right. Yeah. Because he, when the suggestions come up, that Uhura tries to decipher the Romulan signals, Styles is like, well, maybe we should have Spock do it. And Kirk is
Yeah,
like, nah, bro,
said,
we
"Look
ain't doing
here."
that. We ain't doing that on the bridge, man.
Said, "Look here, man. We don't do that here. We don't
We
do
we
that.
we may be sexist and misogynistic, but only I get to make insults about my
So yeah,
first
so
officer, who may or may not look like the devil. Go back a few episodes for that one.
who may or may not. But see, that's
Yeah,
not for you to decide. That's me.
that's me. I'm the captain. I'm the one that gets to be bigoted here.
So yeah, so you get your own command. You could be your own kind of bigot.
Oh boy.
Oh my
So,
god!
but yeah,
But
we've
yeah,
got the first look at the Romulans. I wonder, did they bring in the Romulans? Because, I mean, have we? I don't think we've had an episode with the Klingons yet, have we?
no, we have not.
No. So
No,
this
at
is
this
really,
point, it's been just kind of um closed episode, one off closed episodes of just there's something going on this planet, this guy's doing this or this, the most alien interaction were
The Telosians.
the Telosians, yeah.
Yeah.
Other than them, it's been a scientist and a robot and
And
scientist robot.
non-corporeal beings and what have you,
Right.
or Charlie with his his
Yeah.
weird looks at people.
Just so we never had like a set bad guy going to war race that aliens that has been like, whoa, whole Starfleet needs to be on alert, instead of just something's going down on the Enterprise.
No, right. And I have deep thoughts about the Klingons. We'll get into that when we bring them in. But yeah, I didn't realize that, yeah,
Mhm.
this is the first like of the major Star Trek species that are
Right.
in
Yeah.
multiple
Between
series.
between the Romulans, Klingons, Cardassians, Bajorans, um, Ferengi, is yeah, this is our kind of first introduction to one of those like bad guys like that, like the Borg or
Right. And I would
and
argue even before all of them, I mean, it was really the big three, you know, were humans, Klingons, and Romulans.
right,
Those were
right,
the main interactive species until we started to get into Star Trek. And, I didn't
and
like
then
the
kind of
Ferengi
get
at first, but they got better.
right, and then kind of getting more into like an expanded, thing of it with Andorians um and now with Discovery, now with the Breen and uh, all these other different races that are out there.
Right. That'll be
And so
something
yeah,
interesting to talk about in future episodes of and of Inquisition because we finally got to or rules of Nerdquisition. There I go saying it wrong again. We finally got to see what a Breen actually looks like.
yeah, and and a spoiler alert for anyone that has not seen it. Um, there was an episode in Next Gen where the Enterprise ran into a race there that just called the progenitors. I think that if I remember correctly, that's the name is called the progenitors, in which essentially they are a race that created life, which they created human life.
Oh, the ones that
And so
seeded like the whole galaxy. That's why all
yeah,
kind of like the Star
that's why
Trek's way of
why
like this is
everybody kind of
looks the
we all
same.
sort of look similar.
Right.
Yeah. And so they were kind of the race that did it. And so they in Discovery they kind of explored that episode a little bit more.
Oh, that's
So
cool. I didn't realize that. I'll have to definitely have to get through that because interesting fact on a side note, the woman, the actress who played the progenitor, the hologram that they found that
mm-hmm,
explained all that to Kirk or not Kirk, but Picard and crew is the same
right.
actress who plays the lead founder in Deep Space Nine.
Oh,
The one
that's
who's
cool. Yeah.
leading the war. It's the same actress. Yeah.
Oh, just like Wei Yun. I could
Yep.
never remember the actor's Jeffrey Combs. I want to say
Who?
that's the name.
Yeah, and
Or
he
Jeffrey
plays
Coombs.
what's
Combs or Coombs?
I don't know, but he plays the Andorian captain from Enterprise, the main
Oh
Andorian
yeah,
captain. It's
yeah,
in
he
multiple
does.
episodes. Yeah.
The Ondorian, yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought finally, thank you, Enterprise, for giving some justice to the Andorians. They never had a big other than the original series, they never had much TV time. It made them more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean it's like who are these blue aliens with the little things sticking out? I need to know more about them. You know.
Yeah, and I think one of the episodes we'll be talking about in the future, not too far from now, also has Mark Leonard in it when he actually shows up as Sarek. I think the episode is called Journey to
Mhm.
Babel, and it's the treaty between the Tellarites and the Andorians and
Yeah.
the fake antenna, and we'll get to all that. Anyway, Back to balance of terror, which is where we're at.
Oh, and so yeah, it's we go through this whole, cat and mouse game that Kirk and the other Romulan captain go to. And wait, let me pause real quick. Gambit, I can see you. I see the chat. Loves you, man. I appreciate the support. uh, is it what episode does Luke show up at? You mean Luke Skywalker? Really? This what we doing, man?
uh,
Anyways, so we played this whole cat and mouse game with Kirk and the Romulan commander, and so you know Kirk gets to drop on him, and then the Romulan commander gets to drop on Kirk, and then they have the one big explosion, and then boom, 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 and then one final communication between the two of them, and the Romulan commander, essentially just says, uh, in one in another lifetime we could have been friends.
could have been friends in another lifetime. And Gambit, Luke doesn't show up till season 2. We'll get there. Anyway,
We're getting there.
but Styles is still freaking out. We're talking with Scotty and about the Romulans' power, the power of their weapon and stuff like that. And what's interesting is that Scotty does say at one point that the Romulan ship's power is simple impulse. Well, how did they
Right?
get
Yeah.
anywhere? How did they
Well,
get any? They can't go to
let's
warp.
see. Well, here's the thing. What I'm thinking is that because it's impulse, it's not it almost at light speed, not quite at warp. So even though it may be a little bit slower, it's still pretty fast. So let's just say going across a whole galaxy, the Enterprise it could make it across a whole galaxy in roughly 10 minutes our time. Whereas with them, it'd take, let's say, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what the true scale is, and I've even looked up like
I'm
warp
just using that,
scales
just throwing that
online.
out,
It's an
just cause,
example.
just yeah. So don't
Obviously,
ignore me. I'm just talking on my ass on that one.
obviously, nobody is crossing the galaxy in 10 minutes because, in fact, um, I was looking at it takes about 4 hours to travel about 3.5 light years.
Okay.
And I was doing this math watching an episode of Voyager the other day because I was like, okay, well, they're 75,000 light years from home. It takes them 68 years. I did all the math. I'm an accountant. That's what I do. And boom, I was like, hey, oh, they actually, the math is right. So yeah. And when you add up the distance and all, so yeah, take about just about 4 hours. I don't know what warp speed they were traveling at the time, but it's,
Okay. Yeah.
average warp. But look at some of the discrepancies in other previous episodes. You'll see the card say, full impulse power, and the ship's going to kind of like, but then
Right.
look at the Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, when the Enterprise arrives at Camp Kittimer and Kirk
Mm-hmm.
says, let's cancel warp, full impulse to planet orbit. And the Enterprise just rockets. I mean,
Yeah. It's still just
it's
flying. It's
right,
gone.
right to the planet. Like, damn, that thing is cooking, man.
Yeah. So I guess that would be yeah, that impulse
Those
versus warp. So
fa-
even though
fa-
it's still slower, it may be slower than warp, it's still pretty fast.
famous canonical inconsistencies, but
Yeah.
So is this where the Romulans are going to attempt to try and hide in like the tail of a comet?
Yes. They're trying to hide, and because they realize the implications of if they get caught on that side, and they're not trying to start a war just yet. No, it's on
But
the
they're
horizon, but they're trying to it definitely seems like they're wanting to work out the kinks of their cloaking device and
and
the
they're
weapons
testing,
and power consumption and all of that. Yeah.
and both the Romulan commander and Kirk are testing each other. They're testing each
Oh
other's
yeah.
tactics, and they fail, and then they start remarking about how well my counterpart is so intelligent and strategic, whatever. And they're both sort of thinking the same thing about each other, and gaining almost to a sense of mutual respect, even if
Yeah,
we despise you and must kill you. But
yeah. Even if it's like, he's doing exactly what I would do, and in turn they would respond, he's doing what I would do. If I was on the defensive, this is what I would do. If I was on the offensive, this is what I would do. And so yeah, you could definitely see that even though that they're locked and engaged in this battle, that they're starting to you know get to that understanding and get to that mutual respect because oh yeah,
and
I'm not dealing with an amateur.
no, and you're seeing sort of the different command styles too, where Kirk is dealing with Styles, who's a little erratic and obviously prejudiced and wants to just destroy the Romulans, and he's holding it against Spock. Where the sub commander or the Romulan commander, he's just like when his people talk back, he's like, "Oh, you're demoted. Next."
Yeah, it's like even the one guy he demoted the one guy because he said hey, I just want to let everybody know that we won. And he said, "You stupid! I told you, I told you to be quiet. You're demoted."
Right, right.
And
Like,
it's like, man, but I did something. I didn't know I did something wrong.
oh yeah,
It's like this
he
is what I always do.
he pulled a straight Kirk, like in the one episode we reviewed a few episodes ago, where Kirk was like, "That your opinion would be valid if this were a democracy."
Exactly.
But it's not.
Yes.
It's not. So you're demoted. Next. I mean, I guess it's better than the Klingons. I mean, when the one Klingon in Star Trek 3 didn't hit the engines and blew up the one ship and was like, "Oh, it was a lucky shot." And Krug was like,
Right.
"Okay, you're vaporized. Next guy, don't screw up. Don't screw up."
So, oh yeah, and it's just like the most one of the more famous scenes in just jumping into another galaxy far far away
Right.
with one of your favorites with Darth Vader and he said Lord Vader, we had a problem, we lost these rebels, blah 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 blah, and all's forgiven. You're
Apology
promoted.
ex- Apology
Apollo?
accepted, Captain Nita.
Exactly. Don't disappoint me.
Admiral. Yep. So
Exactly. So
don't
hey,
screw up. The only way you get promoted on this ship is the lifespan of the guy in front of you.
exactly. So hey,
At
so
least
if this is a captain,
The Romulans just like you're demoted. The Klingons like you're vaporized.
yeah, it's two sides of the same coin.
Oh gosh. I,
Oh,
I almost kind of am thankful that there were no Klingons in the Star Wars universe. I don't know if the rebels would have been able to pull that one off.
oh my gosh. So no, not with the Klingons. They are genetically bred for combat. Yeah,
Right? Yeah, that's their whole spiel there. But Kirk manages to get some phaser fire off and damages the Romulan ship. Does some, the
does some
Romulan
damage. Yeah,
commanders doing his thing, and the but also burns out the phaser circuits on the Enterprise while he's doing so.
yeah. So it's
Um,
like, no big deal.
well, because the Romulans fired back at their weapon. They use some kind of plasma bolts or something, which I think that changes because in Next Generation they switch over to like disruptor, which is much more akin to a phaser. A straight beam, not this like
Yeah,
glowing, pulsing blob of green that's coming flying at you in
yeah.
space.
But at least you knew which one it was. Disruptor, phaser, um,
Right. This is some kind of plasma thing.
missiles.
But they do learn that it has a range. It dissipates over a certain
Yeah,
distance because they're trying to get away from another shot, and it does hit the Enterprise, but the damage is minimal because they
yeah,
got far enough away. And that's pretty important. Maybe that's why they switched to disruptors because Romulans were like, yeah, that's a powerful weapon, but like we literally got to be sitting on top of it.
Right.
When
Yeah. So it's good and it works, but just you got to be close.
you got to be close, exactly. And yeah, it didn't quite work out that way. So, but they're trying to get away, and because they want to get back to the neutral zone, they're trying to get out of there. The Romulans are like, we've taken some licks. The Enterprise has taken some licks. Now it's time for us to make our make our escape. But Kirk ain't having it. Kirk is like, I'm bound and
Said
determined to
said
chase you
nah,
down.
man. Said nah, man. We can't have that. We can't have that because look here, you in our house. So no, we
Right.
can't. Yeah, and I get it. Kirk has to. He's got to do his job. He's got to stop and forget there. And I don't know if he wants to report that to them. Obviously he's got to because Starfleet needs to know if Romulans are starting some shenanigans out here. you know, and and I think we need to get prepared.
Yep. Yeah. And this is where Kirk is basically like, well, I'm chasing them down. We're going into the neutral zone. And is this is when Tomlinson dies?
Yes,
The one that
the the
the
the
guy
the
that was
one that was
getting
getting
married,
married. Yeah,
right?
the guy that was getting married, and then he
And Kirk is
dies, and
dismayed,
then
and he's like, "Nah, nah, f that. We're going B
so
to
we're
the
going.
W, right into the neutral zone."
So oh yeah, oh no, he's not getting away. We're going ham on this.
Yeah,
So
we're going
yeah,
full out. And this is interesting because you brought up a galaxy far, far away. The Romulan commander tries the let's dump the debris after we've been hit. Let's dump our
yeah,
trash and see if it confuses them or tricks them into thinking we've been destroyed. And in both universes, the dumping the trash trick did not work. In fact,
no, it did not. Oh
in
no,
this in this one, they're basically like, well, there's not enough debris here to be a ship. And obviously in Star Wars,
yeah.
Boba Fett was like, nah, I'm smarter than that, dog. I'm
It's
smarter than
like,
that. You
come
pulling
on,
that off on
man.
me.
Look. Say no, okay, man. It's like, nah, no, that's not enough for a ship. No, where's the ship? Yeah, and so and then
But
he
they lose the Romulans while they're checking the garbage.
yep,
And
they
both
did lose
ships
the
are trying to
Romulans and
hide from each other, and they're like powered down. It's kind of like a, you know, everyone's just kind of like do, 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 do.
he said,
Like,
do you know where they're at? No, I don't know where they're at. Do you know
I
where
don't know
they're
where
at?
they're
I
at.
don't
Do
know
you?
where they're at.
Nope.
I don't know where they're at. Said, you think we need to power up and look for them? No, wait, no. Because we don't know what they got. Said we're damaged, they're damaged. We do know that, but we don't know if whether or not they can shoot back.
Right, right. And so Kirk takes the opportunity to, chill out in his quarters for a bit. He's going to take a nap. It's not really working out for him. And even though this was not this um Grace Lee Whitney, who played Rand, she had already
Mm-hmm.
been fired from the show, but since they release
Yeah.
everything in different orders, this is, you know, she was not employed by Star Trek anymore at this point until much later, but she does have a brief show where she goes in and she's like, you want anything? He's like, just get me some coffee. I'm going to the bridge. Whatever.
Yeah.
Again, kind of blown off. Just get my coffee, girl. You're my receptionist, and check my mail. Get my
It's like,
coffee.
yeah, just
If it were Picard, he'd been
and
like, feed my fish.
right. And it's like, these poor yeomen. These poor yeomen, and just getting treated all sorts of ways. It's just it just feel for him, especially Yeoman Rand. I'm sorry, just Yeoman Rand. I feel for her. Just from everything she had to endure.
Yep, and we got to get a little bit of
Uh,
more, a little bit of moral support from McCoy. He shows up and the whole gives the whole speech about like of all the inhabited planets that are possible in this galaxy,
yeah.
of all the people out there, there's only one of each of us. So please Don't destroy the one named Kirk.
Yeah, it's like and sometimes Bones, man. He's Bones. Uh, some it's like a roller coaster with him. Of,
It
of
is.
his diagnosis is like, good diagnosis, bad, good, bad, good, bad.
Yeah, sometimes he's rational and humane and compelling and has great advice, and the other times he's just freaking out. Like, whoa, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, we can go way back to Man Trap, the very first episode, with Kirk, the salt creature, and it's like, man, he really just
so you fumbled the ball on that one, man.
he fumbled the
Like
ball
you
in that one. Like,
like you really fumbled the ball on that one.
but now you're just like, as Kirk is having some kind of moral dilemma about what to do. Do I keep chasing? Do I keep fighting? Do I go out of my way to destroy this enemy? And McCoy, enter McCoy to give him a little bit of moral support. But um, we do the Romulan commander, you know, trying the same trick twice, does the trash dump again,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where the show kind of ages itself because they drop in that trash a nuclear warhead, and
Yeah,
you know,
because
and
there at the time, it was still the nuclear
Cold
winter
War,
and Cold
Cold
War.
War, yeah.
That was still going on, and that was a huge thing that just affected the whole world, honestly. And so yeah, it definitely dated itself when by releasing that, but
Right. And
two
and
is
then this is when the Romulan commander has his own moral dilemma because the nuke goes off, it damages the Enterprise, and the Romulan commander is like, well, okay, we're done. Let's get out of here. Let's go home. But the dude that he demoted like 30 minutes ago is like,
yeah,
hey,
say
we're
yo man,
Romulans, man. We destroy the enemy without
say
prejudice or with extreme prejudice, as the
say
case may
yeah,
be.
say hey, um dog, we Romulans. I don't know where this I don't know where this whole let him go thing came from, but dog, you gonna have to fire. And so and yeah, again, and this whole between the two of them, they have these whole moral dilemmas of, I don't want to destroy the enemy, I respect him, I don't want to, I want to sit down with him and talk to him, because now after this whole back and forth thing we've got going on, this whole cat and mouse game, I want to talk to him, I want to I want to reason with him.
Well, and
I want to work
they're
out
gaining some respect for each other for sure.
yeah,
As battle commanders, I mean, they've both done some
yeah,
serious damage to each other at this point.
yeah, but I mean, it's still, you can still tell that both of them, they just kind of, they want to, at the very least, if there's some way possible, sit down and just talk. Maybe work out some kind of agreement, some kind of accord, something. But if anything, they just want to kind of talk to each other,
Yep,
because they pretty much kind of see, okay, this is a guy that has the same kind of mentality as I do. So
absolutely, absolutely. So that
I'm
there
kind
is that.
of, that's a slight intriguement, of, you know, is this guy, he's is this is me. I'm fighting myself, so to speak. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we do get another brief little show of bigotry from Styles where he snips at Spock
Mhm.
again, and then there's the phaser failure where the coolant leak or something. But then
Right.
and the Romulans move into attack as he's been informed by his now demoted officer that he needs to
Yeah.
destroy the enemy. But um,
And then almost like in a surprising move, Spock to a point
Spock, mhm,
agrees. with the helmsman, and
Styles, yeah.
just say with Styles because he says that these Romulans, they are offshoot, they are part of our race, and yeah, we need to have a show of force because this is what they understand.
Oh yeah, and this is actually where Tomlinson dies when the phaser coolant stuff breaks out.
Yeah,
Both Styles and him are consumed by that, and that's when
yeah,
Spock runs over and fires the phasers, thus severely crippling the Romulan ship. So, but but on that line of we're here now, where Kirk is debilitated, the
yeah,
Romulans they can't do anything, and they get visual contact for a very brief conversation,
yeah,
and goes
yeah.
into
For just
exactly
like
what
a
goes into what you were just saying, where they actually the commander, Kirk is like, you can beam over, we'll help you. Romulan's like, nah, we don't do that, but you and I could have been friends in another life, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
before I destroy myself and my crew and my ship, I just want to say I think you're pretty cool. We could have been friends.
yeah. So you all right, man. You all right.
You're all right, but I got
Before I destroy everything, I just want to let you know, man, you all right. You all right. and, and so yeah, and you see that, and then it kind of rose the whole dilemma of royal dilemma that do you take that initial aggression stance and run the risk of completely starting another war,
right.
you know, over something that may or may not have been this or whatever the case may be, and
Oh
again,
yeah.
it's like, do you show that aggression? Do you, or do you, give them warning shots and kind of let them know, hey, you stay over on your side, or do you destroy them and just uh, you know potentially start a war with Romulus, you know,
Yeah, but you
and
you
all of
got
these
to
things you got to take into consideration of whether or not, do you fire, how do you fire, how, where do you fire, how much firepower do you use?
yeah, and then the weird twist at the end too is that, um during the phaser coolant leak and the damage there with Styles and Tomlinson, that Spock was actually able to save Styles, which brings Styles kind of full circle, like, whoa, I was a complete and utter
I was a
a-hole
complete
to
d-bag to him,
right to
and he
you, and you still
he
saved
you
my
just saved my
life. And
life, man. All right. And it was almost like you see, it was almost like a after school special of like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be such a bigot. And it's like you're in deep space, man, and you literally have to rely on all these people, and you're telling me that, dog, that that just like what Kirk said, bigotry has no place on this bridge.
exactly. And that's when Rand comes in and she's like, "Hey, I just talked to Starfleet and they approve of your tactics. You had to go after the Romulan commander, you had to destroy them, and I
Yep.
also get personally why the Romulan commander destroyed his ship. If I was a Starfleet commander in real life, I would have to destroy my ship. You don't want the technology to fall into the hands of the enemy.
Right.
I may
You know.
respect that other commander, but I can't put my entire race at risk just
Yeah,
over
because I
a
mean,
little bit of mutual respect.
the last thing you need is for them to find out, any passcodes or any maps or any plans or anything, because again, like you said, I let this fall into the wrong hands, then that's the end of my entire planet.
Yeah, yeah. Our whole empire is gone, or our
Right.
federation, or whichever. And so, yeah, that's really where we leave off at. I mean, Kirk has to console Tomlinson's fiance in
Mhm.
the chapel that I don't think we ever see again.
Right. That's what we cover, with grief, and and you see that she's sad, and somehow at the same instant she's processed it as well. Like she's gone through all of the stages of grief and mourning, within
12 minutes.
yeah.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
She's
like I
she's the
get
dude she's the dutiful Starfleet officer. I mean, she's not like who's the woman who fell in love with Data after her
right.
thing, or the little kid that wanted to be Data after his parents were killed, or it's like
Yeah.
why is it always Data? Why does
Because
everyone take their rebounds to Data?
I who knows? I guess they just got that charisma, that algorithmic charisma, I guess.
Algorithmic charisma. He's got the charisma. He's got the charisma of TikTok. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Data is a fan favorite and definitely a favorite character of mine. I mean, I'm not necessarily like I mean, he's one of the most popular. I'm more of oddly enough, I'm a Riker fan. He's probably one of my favorite characters from Next Gen, but there might be more to
Yeah.
that than just the character itself. It might be a little bit of a crush there. I don't, maybe who knows, but we'll get to that. They did pick the right guy to
But
be the ladies' man. I'm just saying. Anyway,
yeah. It's not the clean shaven with
post
beard.
beard always,
He
all
got
day,
yeah,
every day.
yeah, yeah.
I turn on Star Trek Next Gen and Riker doesn't have a beard until we start reviewing those episodes. I'm turning it off.
So
Don't
no, and
watch
I
it.
know as soon as we get there, I know one of my first things is gonna be, well, this is a beardless Riker episode.
Yeah, we get about 2 seasons of that. So
And I'm gonna say, well, this is a
yeah,
beardless Riker episode again.
yeah.
Riker need to grow a beard.
I know we've talked about that before, like the way I judge the episodes I watch. Okay, Riker doesn't have a beard. No. Troy's mom. No. No collars on uniforms. No. Dr. Pulaski. No.
I didn't mind Pulaski too much.
She
I didn't
had
mind her too
moments
much.
where she really annoyed me, but then other times
She
she
had
didn't.
those. She definitely did have those Wesley Crusher moments, without a doubt. Not gonna lie, she did have those moments where you just want to say, "Shut up, Doctor."
Her very first appearance was a bad one. I just saw that the other day,
Oh
but
my gosh. Yeah, and I think the reason why it was such a bad thing with her first appearance, because I'm speaking myself personally, is that I was so used to Dr. Crusher,
mhm.
Gates McFadden. I was so used to seeing her, and so used to it that it was just hard for me to accept a new doctor.
Oh yeah,
I
and
just hard
fortunately
for
it
me to
was
accept it. And I mean, and the thing is, and plus, she didn't say anything, any worse or nice or anything like that than Crusher did. It's just that just people like Dr. Crusher more because she was just there. She was always a fan favorite, but for whatever reason,
oh yeah, and
people just
I
couldn't
would
accept
be
Pulaski.
I would definitely say that it's the character I didn't like. It's not the actress because we're going to be talking about her, Diana Mulder. She
Mm-hmm.
was in an episode of the original series, the one with the three orbs that Kirk and her and Spock, I think, like allowed these aliens to take over their
Oh
bodies
yeah,
so they
yeah,
could
yeah,
build their own new bodies and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
but
I
yeah, so
remember
I
that.
have
Yeah,
nothing against the actress. It's just the character I didn't like so much. So, but
yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair.
but
Because
that's
again,
beside the point.
like I said, for me, it was just at first it was because I was so used to Doctor Crusher, and
Of
then
course.
after um, I'd say about 5-10 years ago, I rewatched Next Gen,
Hmm.
and it got to Pulaski. I was like, it's not that bad, not as bad as I originally remember. There were a couple of there were some spots where she was quite a see you next Tuesday, but It just is what
Definitely.
it is.
Definitely. And like you said, everyone loved Gates McFadden. I mean, the rumor actually for a long time was that she left to have a baby, which was partially true, but she really left about the Gates
Mhm.
McFadden left because she was having some conflicts with some of the creative direction on the show and one of the writers or producers or something. And
Yeah.
she was gone for
And
I think almost a whole season, if not a whole
um
season.
yeah, I think she was. I think she was. I want to say she was gone for us well, full season because I think I want to say originally that she was gone officially gone for like half the season, but um they just brought her back in to start filming within the following season, I think.
Yeah, so she was written
Yeah.
out of the series in the second season, but then ended up coming back for season three. So but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We're not even anywhere close to even getting to Star Trek: The Next Generation yet. We still got to get through another 2.5 seasons. We're on episode 14 now, including the cage,
Mhm.
but so 13, there's 26 episodes in episode or in season one. That- Excuse me. Another season and 3/4 to go, and then the animated series and all that fun stuff. But
Yeah.
we'll definitely get to that. Next episode is a fun one. Shore leave.
Oh yeah. You
It's
get
a
to
goofy episode.
it, that definitely a fun episode, and you get to find out what would they do with the power of imagination.
Exactly. And we also get to see Kirk get his behind whooped again and again
But
and again.
to Kirk, Kirk being Kirk, he finally got his lick back.
Oh
Finally
yeah.
got his
Oh yeah.
lick back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Even the best got to go down a dozen times in an episode.
Say, hey, say, fall down 12 times, get up 13. That's all.
Yep.
But yeah,
And
definitely a fun episode coming up.
we'll have some fun with that one. I don't have much to say else about this episode. I mean, obviously, we're introducing one of the biggest enemies in Star Trek. They will come into factor again and again and again. I do have a partiality to the Romulans. I do tend to like them better than the Klingons. I don't know why that is necessarily. I'm kind of drawn to them. Maybe it's the color green. My favorite color is green, and everything
Uh,
they do is green. But
I had it was an old coworker of mine, and we would have, I don't know if you call it debates, Star Trek debates. But
okay,
he asked me one time, at the time, what was my favorite, uh, bad guys, or what was my favorite race in Star Trek, and this was before, I saw the Borg,
well,
and
yeah, I mean the Borg are hands
this
down
is,
and my
this,
favorite enemy,
yeah,
period. But
but this is before I saw the Borg, and so before then it was the Klingons, and so I was like, I like the Klingons. First he was like, "Oh, why you like them? They're dirty, they're smelly, they don't have any honor, even though they say they do. They don't ever show it. And he preferred the Romulans because um, I don't know why he would say this. They're clean, they're organized. They have they're organized. They have the military style. Blah 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 blah. He's sung all the praises to Romulans and the Klingons. He said, they're dirty, they're smelly, they have no sense of honor. The only one that does is Worf, and even half the time he doesn't, and blah 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 blah. And he just down talk Klingons.
yeah, I won't down talk them. I love the Klingons. I especially love the sort of recreation of them from the motion picture on
Yeah,
versus the TOS version. But okay, yeah, they're dirty, but they have honor. They have honor, and they definitely
yeah,
showed that
and
in later adaptations.
and at first I didn't like the how they looked on Enterprise, but then
Yeah,
it started kind of to grow on me. Just simply because that uh,
on
the doctor
Enterprise.
there, where they started doing talking about a Klingon's anatomy. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Mhm.
I want to say it was it was either yeah, it was Enterprise, yeah, and just talking about how they had extra stomachs, extra hearts, extra this, extra that, just
I actually
because
think
as
that was a
as warrior
TNG.
people.
That was a TNG episode when Worf broke his spine.
Oh well, yeah, that yeah,
They may
probably
have
yeah,
talked
yeah, more
they
than
may
likely
have
yeah.
talked about it in Enterprise. I can't say I haven't watched it enough to know. So you could be right about that too. But they did discuss in Enterprise the whole why Klingons some had ridges and some didn't. They do
Yeah.
discuss that whole thing, you know. Even though Worf and what
Mm.
trouble trials and tribulations in the Deep Space Nine episode when they go
Yeah,
back to that
yeah,
episode to
and then
that
go
Tribble
back to
episode,
that. Yeah,
and they're like, why do the Klingons look different? Worf's like, we don't talk
so
about it.
well, we don't talk about it.
We don't
Which
talk
I thought
about
it was
Bruno.
cool,
We don't talk about
and
Bruno.
I thought it was cool in the Discovery. Was the first? I think it was the first season of Discovery when they kind of you could kind of see how they kind of made the Klingons with the ridges and everything like that look human,
Yeah.
and the
Yep.
process that went through that, and just kind of how it made a lot of Klingons just snap, and they just broke, you know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
just
Definitely.
simply because that wasn't their bodies, that wasn't their used to. They weren't used to that. Just and again, that kind of touching on being trans. You're not the
Right.
body that you're not used to, and
Exactly.
it made them snap. And only few of
Exactly.
them were actually able to deal with it properly. Well, I don't even say properly, even just manage it. And those are
No.
the ones that you would see that just that were there next gen. I mean, not next gen, and the original series.
Right. And it just goes to show the level of complexity that Star Trek goes to. I mean, we could literally keep peeling back layers and layers and layers, and this
Oh,
episode would never end.
absolutely. It's just because of just everything it deals with, just from the bigotry and the xenophobia, and then just the assumptions that you make just from the person that you don't know and the enemy that you don't know, and just things that you assume about them, or and even if you see that oh snap, the one person that's here that looks like them, oh yeah, he knows everything about him, he could do, and he says that, and it's just that whole just kind of attitude and bigotry, and you just kind of see that being explored,
and
kind of
still
slightly, and still
and
and still to this day. Yeah,
and still coming back from it too.
yeah,
Because get to the
absolutely.
end of the episode where he was obviously not happy with Spock through the whole episode, and then to say, "Oh, well, I mean, I
So
know it took
wait,
him
what?
saving your life to get you to come around, which you should have come around on your own anyway if you were a decent person." But
Yeah, exactly. I
we're
mean,
we're
but
we're nitpicking at this point, so so that's all I have. Like I said, next episode is Shore Leave. We will get to that one very soon. I have given my final thoughts. Go ahead and set us a course for home, Commander, and get us out of here.
all right. Well, I think I said everything I needed to say, and so I'm looking forward to this next episode. Again, everyone, keep your triple spade and neuter. Live long and prosper. Take care.